Hello lovelies, welcome to another tutorial video on how to sew a palazzo pants with pocket. This is my final outcome. Let's dive into the tutorial so you'll learn how to make yours this good. I have already cut my fabric according to the exact measurement I need to cut the front side of my trouser. To avoid fabric wastage, this was the measurement I used to cut the exact width that accommodated the whole measurement of my front trouser. Let me zoom in quite a bit so you can see exactly what I'm about to do. Firstly, you are going to determine your hip divided by 4, which in my case 35 divided by 4 will give you 8.75. Next is to add your crotch extension, and your crotch extension is gotten by your hip divided by 16. So when I divided my hip, that is 35 divided by 16, it gave me 2.1 something. I just approximated it to 2.25, and then the next thing you're going to do is to add your allowance, which mine I gave 2.5 inches allowance. Trust me, when you measure it like this, you are going to get the exact measurements for drafting your front pattern. So the next thing you are going to do, all the numbers that we have down there, you are going to sum them up, and what you got is what you are going to cut the width of your fabric with. For me, I got 13.5. And you can see when I take my tape to measure the full width of the fabric I have, it's 13.5. It's even 14. It's exactly the measurement that I need. So we are going to come out from the side by 1 inch. You are going to take this 1 inch all the way to the very end of the fabric. Afterwards, with your ruler, you are just going to connect the marks to the very end of your fabric also, just the way you see me doing on the screen. The next line that you are going to draw is going to be your starting line. You have to make it at least 1 inch. Okay, you are going to see the reason why we are giving this later on. So we gave 1 inch at the top and 1 inch at the sides. On that 1 inch mark you have at the side, that is where you are going to place your tape, and you are going to measure your hip divided by 4, and in my case it was 8.75. I'm just going to mark it there, and I'll take it up to the starting line, and I will also mark the 8.75 as well. So after marking those lines, I'm just going to connect them with my ruler to get a straight line. The next thing is to get our hip length, which is the distance between our waist to our hip, which mine is 9 inches. So my trouser is going to have a band. What I'm going to do is, you notice that I didn't place my tape exactly on the starting line that I marked. I took it up by 1.5 inches. That is going to be the length of my band, 1.5 inches, and then I'll place it there, and then I'll mark my 9 inches hip length. I'm going to mark them on both ends in order for me to get a straight line. So this is my straight line right now. Next thing is to determine our crotch length, which my crotch length was 11 inches. A way you can do this is to divide your measurements by 4. You add extra 2 inches, or you can just sit down on a chair on a flat surface. You place your tape on your waist, and then you measure to the surface of what you are sitting on. When I used the two methods for mine, one gave me 10.75 and the other one gave me 11. I just used 11 because I just want my trouser to be very free at the crotch area. So I used the one that gave me the biggest crotch depth. Now you determine your crotch extension, which is your hip divided by 16. We've already done this measurement before. Mine gave me 2.25. I'm just going to place the mark right there, and then I will extend the line into the mark I just made. From your hip extension, make a curve to meet your hip line, like the way you see me do on the screen. At the top of the center front, you are going to come in with your tape by 0.5, and then you are going to blend it into your crotch length like this. Just watch closely what I am doing. So because of the presence of that new curve, that new line is what we are going to be working with. The first straight line, we are going to be discarding that. The new line we just curve into the crotch length is what we are going to be working with. Then on that same point, you are going to go down by 1/2 inch. And on that point, you are going to connect it to meet the tip of the side front. By so doing, when we are done sewing the trouser and we wear it on our waist, we'll notice that on the waist side, it has a curve illusion. It's not straight. It's just like it's a U kind of a curve on the front waistline. On the new line that we have on our center front, that is where I'm placing my finger now, you are going to place your tape there and you're going to measure your waist measurement divided by 4. My waist is 26 divided by 4. It gave me 6.5 plus 1 inch allowance is 7.5. So that is the measurement I have right on there. On your hip line, you are going to measure your hip divided by 4 and then you are going to add 1 inch allowance. So as you can see, the 1 inch we gave on the side, you now know the reason. So you are going to take your curve and you are going to blend them together. That is your waist to your hip line. So everything we have done is looking nice so far so good. We are done with the upper part of the pants. Now it's time to work on the bottom part, that is the knee line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my tape on the starting line, and please, whenever you are making this measurement, keep in mind the 1.5 that is going to be your band. I'll place my tape on my starting line excluding my band measurements, and then I'll mark 24, which is from my waist to my knee length is 24. I'll roll a straight line on that point. So that's my knee line now. The next thing is for us to get our gray line. We are going to start from that point, not that point, the point I'm putting my tape right now, and I'm going to measure to the end of your crotch extension. And so what you have there, you are going to divide it into 2 and you're going to place it on your knee line. In my case, I had a total of 11 inches. So you know that half of 11 inches is 5.5 inches. So I'm going to place my tape on my knee, okay, starting from that line, and then I'll mark 5.5 inches. The reason why we are doing this is because to allow for equal distribution of the measurement, so that when we are done sewing and we iron it, you know that gator line that is always at the middle? Yes, that is the need for this crease line. When we iron it, it's going to be exactly at the middle. So that's what I'm doing now. So 5.5 on one side, 5.5 on the other side. So I'm just going to connect. I connected the crease line at the middle, and so I connected from that other side I'm connecting right now, okay? On the knee line, you are going to remove half of an inch on both sides. That you are going to reduce what you have by half of an inch. So I use half of an inch, or you can also use 1 inch, depend on how baggy or how firm you want it to be. From the outcome that I got, I think next time I'm going to be reducing it by 1 inch. Basically, it all depends on what you want, how free or how firm you want your trouser to be. So from that point, you are going to connect it over to the crotch extension line. Do the same thing on the other side. Connect from your new knee point to your hip curve. Like I always say, if you don't understand what I am saying, you should definitely understand what I am doing. So watch closely. So at this point, I realized that I made a mistake on the side front. So what I was supposed to do is, before connecting that point to the hip curve, I was supposed to add 1 inch allowance to it. So that's what I didn't do. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm supposed to add 1 inch allowance. After going in by that half of an inch on the knee line, I will give 1 inch allowance before I connect it to the hip curve. So before you connect, make sure you add your 1 inch allowance to both sides, because I'm also going to be adding the same 1 inch allowance on the other side. So you are going to start from the point you went in by ½ inch, and you are going to measure 1 inch for your sewing allowance, and you're also going to add the same 1 inch on your crotch extension before connecting. So please don't make the mistakes. The mistake I made here was that I just did not add the allowance before connecting. But before you connect, just please make sure that you add the allowance, okay? Let me do a brief recap. After getting your knee length, the next thing is to get your crease line. How do we get your crease line? You get it by placing your tape on your crotch line, and then what you have, you divide it by 2. Now, this measurement is taken even before you add your 1 inch allowance. When I measured, I had 11 inches, and that 11 inches, you are going to divide it by 2, which is 5.5. Starting from the straight line you marked on the center front, you are going to measure 5.5, and then on the other side, you measure 5.5. So this is dividing them equally. So after you've gotten that 5.5 points, that point, you are then going to go in by half of an inch or 1 inch, which in my case I went in by half of an inch. And thereafter you are going to also place your tape on that point you just went in by, and then measure 1 inch. Give 1 inch for your stitching allowance. Also give 1 inch to your crotch extension too before you connect. Okay, this is just like a shabby recap to make you understand more. Okay, let's go over to the bottom part of the trouser. So what you're going to do is that you're going to get the full length. A simple way to get the full length in case your table is not long enough, we already know that from our waist to our knee is 24. So just put your tape on your knee line, 24 inches, and then measure downwards. You get, instead of stressing yourself, place your tape 24 inches on your knee line and then measure downwards for your full length. So when making palazzos, it's important that you are generous with your full length. Don't be stingy with material. When you are taking the full length of your palazzo, ensure that your tape touches the floor, because it's going to look somehow when you wear heels and your trouser is looking as though it's jumpy. You get. My full length is 41, while I added 2 inches for folding allowance at the bottom. I ruled those points together. Okay, now the same thing we did on our knee line when we are getting our crease line is the same thing we want to do on our full length now. On this straight line you have in front, you are going to place your tape there, mark 5.5, and then mark 5.5 on the other side, so that when you measure them together, you are going to get exactly 11 inches. That's what we got when we measure our crotch line. Now after getting that point, you are going to go in on both ends by 1 inch. This is to slim down the bottom end of our palazzo. On the knee line we went in by half of an inch, right? Now on the hem line we are going in by 1 inch. So after you go in by 1 inch, you are still going to add back 1 inch for your allowance. So it's just as if we did not remove anything. You understand now? So you are going to connect the lines to meet the knee line. Now it's time for me to cut, but I'm not going to cut exactly on that line we have in front. I'm not going to cut exactly on the waistline. I'm going to be giving half of an inch. That half of an inch is what I'm going to use to join the band and the trouser together, so that it's not going to cut away from the main from the measurement I already have. To the city streets. Afterwards, you are going to add half of an inch stitching allowance to the center front crotch curve, just the way you see me doing. And when you're done with that, proceed with cutting. A heart speed to the city streets. For cutting the back, you are going to place your front pattern on a folded fabric. Let there be allowance at the top and both sides. To cut the fabric for the back, remember that initially we used 13.5 as the fabric size when drafting the front pattern of the trouser. You are going to add 3 to 4 inches to the initial front fabric size. That is, in my case, the 13.5 I used as my front fabric size, I will add additional 3 inches to it, making it 16.5, approximately 17. Now, the next thing you are going to do is on the crotch extension line, you are going to come out by 1.5 inch. But if the person is actually have a big butt, you are going to come out by 2 inches. But me, I have a flat surface, so I'm using 1.5. And so connect that line outwards like this. So I'm just extending the lines I have on my front pattern on the back fabric so that the lines will be visible on both the front and the back. So right there is the 1.5 inch extension. On the center front, you are going to go in by 1.5 inch, okay? And then right on that point, you are going to go up by 1 to 2 inches. But me, I used 1 inch. It just depends on the person's size of butt, because the need for that is to allow for room for the butt to sit. And afterwards, from that point you went up by, you are going to connect to the side front like this. So on that new point that I'm pointing right there, that point we went in by 1.5, you are going to place your tape on that point and you are going to measure your real waist measurement, which in my case was 6.5, and you are going to add back 1 inch allowance. From that new point on your waist, you are going to connect it into the hip line. So for ease, I'm going to come out by half of an inch, just the way you see me doing on the hip line. That's actually on the crotch line. So I'm just going to connect what I have from my waist into that 1/2 inch on the crotch line, and I'll connect it to meet the knee line like this. I'll just blend it into the knee line. So on the back new waistline and the back crotch extension, you are just going to lift up your front fabric and you're going to connect those points together. There's no particular curve pattern for this. Just curve it the way you see me doing, or it could be deeper. And after that, you're just going to connect from that back crotch extension into the back knee line, into the knee line of the front. You're just going to blend it in. So that's basically it for the back pattern. Every other thing remains the same. On the center back, we are just going to be marking our zipper allowance now. Don't forget to remove tape inches for your band. So I'm going to mark 8 inches for my zipper allowance length, and I will use 1 inch for, you know, just the way you see me doing. Then I'll connect them together like this. So on the crotch, on the back crotch also, I'm also going to be giving 1/2 inch stitch allowance. So basically that's all. Now you're just going to cut through easily. So I'm going to make a notch at the bottom of the trouser length to indicate that that's where I'm going to start my fold. So for the front pocket, I'm just going to go down on the side front by 7 inches. I'm going to just make a little snip there with my scissors. And at the top, I'm just going to mark 2.5 inches right there. So all these things we are doing is making adjustments for the pocket. I'm going to use my scissors to make a notch on that point. For my pockets, I'm going to be using 7 inches wide and 13 inches long. On the first fold, when I measure it, I have 14 inches. This is so that when I clap it together again on the second fold and I measure it, it's going to give me 7 inches, since I'm cutting this as 2 pockets at once. So you can see the length is 13 inches and the width is obviously 7 inches. 7 inches on fold, please take note. So I'm going to be giving my pocket a curve, not on the part that is folded, on the part that is separated. So I'm just going to mark a curve there. You can decide to do this. You can decide to leave your pocket as rectangular. So it's just up to you. So when I was done cutting and I open it up, this is what it looks like. And now we are, getting ready to go sew. If you want your pocket to come out well, use a gum stay. So on that 2.5 inches at the waistline and to that 7 inches for the pocket length, I'm just going to use my pencil to connect those points together so that it's going to be more visible for me when I'm sewing. So you are going to bring in your pocket fabric and you are going to place them right sides facing each other. Right sides facing each other. You are going to arrange the pockets and the trouser together in a way that a little, maybe like 1/2 inch of the pocket fabric is coming out, is upward more than the trouser pattern. So arrange the pockets and the trouser very well at the side so that the notch part that you snipped at the side, that's the 7 inches point, will align exactly with the pocket end. So right now what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to trim off that excess at the side, and that excess I'm trimming off is the excess of the pocket. Don't worry, when you are doing this, you are really going to get what I'm saying, okay? So I'm just going to pin the trouser and the pocket together, and afterwards I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and sew exactly on that straight line. So I'm done sewing. The stitches is not obvious because I sewed exactly on top of the line, and you are going to snip away the excess at the side now, leaving 1/2 inch. Don't snip away everything, okay? Leave 1/2 inch. Open it up and you're going to top stitch on top of the pocket piece. After you're done with that, take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to mark on top of that pocket line like that. The next thing for you to do is to open it up again and you are going to clamp the pocket wrong side facing each other like this, and then you are going to sew along the pocket curve like this. So after that, you are just going to turn it out right sides facing each other now. So take your time to arrange the pocket well and make sure that everything is relaxed. Pin them down if you must, just to make sure that you have something relaxed and you are able to work with. After you've pinned them down, the next thing you are going to do is to take your trouser over to the sewing machine and you are going to stitch on top of that pocket curve like that. And after that, immediately sew on top of the trouser and the pockets just to secure them in place. So this is what I have. You notice that the hip curve we have on the side of the front is no longer there. To fix this, you are going to bring the other part of your front trouser and place it on top of the other one with the pocket. You are going to make sure that it's aligning at the crotch curve. And when you are done with that, you are going to trace the hip curve on the trouser that now has the pocket that the hip curve has disappeared from. Just the way you see me doing. So cut off the top part that is protruding from the main trouser. So that's basically is for sewing the pockets for trouser, and you are going to do the same thing for the other leg. So I am done sewing my pocket on both sides of my front trouser legs. Place both legs right sides facing each other. You are going to join them at the crotch using the 1/2 inch that you gave for allowance. So I am done with it. I'm just going to place one side of the back piece right sides facing each other on one side of the front piece, and I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and join them at the side. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other side too. I'll join them at the sides, but before you do this, you must make sure that you've already fold the bottom together and sewed it. So when you are sewing on your sewing machine, you are to sew with the 1 inch allowance that you gave when you were drafting on your fabric. I am done sewing. The next thing you are going to do is you are going to clap the back piece together and you are going to sew the crotch of your back piece now. But you are not going to start from the top. You are going to start from where the zipper allowance stops, just the way I'm demonstrating with my hands. So I am done sewing that part all the way to the end. Now it's time to join both crotch area at the bottom together. From that center, you are just going to arrange it that each stitch line, they meet each other, like the intersection is like on the same part, and then you are just going to sew all the way to the end of your trouser with 1 inch. The next thing is for us to sew our band. You know that initially I gave 1.25 inch for the length of my band. I just went ahead to add a gum stay because I wanted it to be firm. Now when I cut 1.25 inches, I also made sure I had 1/2 inch on both sides that I'm going to use to sew it on top of the main trouser. Okay, so watch closely how I'm going to fix this band because it's not the normal band that I used to fix before. So you're going to place one end right sides facing each other. I made sure that the part I put my gum stay is facing the trouser directly. So I'm just going to place it like that, and you're going to make sure that as you place it on the trouser, a little bit of the band is coming out from one end, and you're going to sew it all the way to the end. You are also going to make sure that when you get to the end of the zipper allowance, the other side of the zipper allowance, you are going to leave some of the band hanging out. It's not just going to stop exactly on where the zipper allowance stops on both sides. Leave a little, maybe like 1 inch. So I'm done sewing, and this is what I mean when I say you should leave a little bit of the band hanging out from the zipper allowance end. On one end of the band, you are going to fold it in like this, and then you are going to bend it over with the 1.25 inch length of my band, and then on the inside, you are going to place the allowance you used to sew it. Okay, I'm just starting again. Now, bend it inwards like this. Bend it downwards, giving that 1.25 band length, and then the allowance at the bottom, you're going to put it inside. Okay, as you can see, you're going to put it inside. All right, and then you're going to fold the other one inside. You're just going to hide that one inside on top of the band. You're going to use the band to cover it, and afterwards sew on top to the end. And when you get to the other end, also fold it in. You know what, when you are sewing this, you will get exactly what I'm saying. Now go ahead and fix your zipper. After fixing your zipper, that is it. You've got yourself a lovely palazzo pants with pockets. Please guys, do well to subscribe to this channel, turn on notification bell so you get notified each time I post a video, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find it helpful. I'll see you on my next upload. Bye.